Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety and asks, what new actions, if any, will he take in light of MindtheGap's research, which concludes that pay gap reporting is likely to close Aotearoa's gender and ethnic pay gaps by as much as 40% and increase pay by as much as $35 per week for the average worker?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety, I thank the member for her question. The Government is committed to improving employment outcomes, supporting pay equity for all women in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I acknowledge the advocacy of MindtheGap on these issues. I am closely considering a range of matters that the Education and Workforce Select Committee has raised in its briefing into pay transparency. The Government will be responding to these shortly. We continue to support pay equity through a range of other actions, including through fair pay agreements, pay equity settlements, reducing the gender pay gap in the public service through targets and measures, and soon we'll be delivering the first ever Women's Employment Action Plan to remove barriers that prevent women from entering work and support better employment outcomes for them. There is more work to do, and it will take the work of businesses, unions and government alike to tackle the bigger issue of pay equity.
Supplementary. Does he agree that an extra $35 for women, Māori and Pacifica workers, which is an extra 8 loaves of bread, 5 dozen eggs or a bus pass, would make a real difference to working families right now?
Mr. Speaker, I do want to caution that picking pay transparency reporting as the panacea is the only panacea to the gender pay gap. 40%. Pay reporting is one of the tools that could help us towards eliminating pay gaps. Other tools that we are already implementing include fair pay agreements, pay equity and leadership targets in the public service. The Government has also delivered a suite of improvements from the 1st of April that will see income increases for over 1.4 million New Zealanders.
Supplementary. What is the Minister's response to research by Te Ara Ahunga Ora Retirement Commission, which shows that the KiwiSaver pay gap is increasing, with women having 20% less in retirement savings than men, in part due to the cumulative impact of the gender wage gap?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, the discrepancies that are happening in the KiwiSaver and wage gap is symptomatic of the wider issues that are occurring in the gender pay gap and the drivers that cause that. I happen to know that my colleague, the Minister for Women, has commissioned some research around this, and I look forward to having future conversations with her about this.
Nice. Supplementary. What is the Minister's response to the Education and Workforce Committee's final report into pay transparency, which found that the Government should urgently adopt mandatory pay transparency reporting and require organisations to take action to address inequity?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, I found that the report from the Education and Workforce Select Committee was incredibly helpful in discussions that we will be having going forward in this. We have the mandatory 60 working days to respond to that, and we will be responding to that in due course. But we do take this issue very seriously, and nothing at this stage is off the table.
Does he stand by his statement on the pay gap that, quote, there's a strong level of commitment? We want to examine the evidence, we'll examine the Select Committee's report and then we'll make considered decisions, unquote. And if so, now that he has evidence from the committee and MindtheGap that comprehensive pay gap reporting does work, will he finally take action?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, to the first part of that question, absolutely. To the second part, we are working through those recommendations at the moment, and our report will come through. Our response to that report will come through shortly.
Supplementary. How much longer will women, Māori and Pacifica bear the cost of pay gaps because the government has not started work on legislation to introduce comprehensive pay gap reporting, which was promised last term by his predecessor and the then Minister for Women, Julianne Genter.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, while there is a gender pay gap, there is more work to be done, because while there is a gender pay gap, it is completely unacceptable, which is why we have taken work on implementing fair pay agreements, pay equity settlements, increased paid parental leave, leadership targets and a dedicated women's employment action plan. We are taking action to reduce the pay gap.
Question number 5, Rachel